As I stand here today, I'm recalling a time when my mom told me about my birth. I was just a screaming little baby, and already there was something wrong with me. It seemed that when I was born, I had a gash in my intestine, which needed to be mended immediately. On the second day of my life, I had surgery. For the next 13 days, I had a tube down my throat to remove excess bile coming from my body, and I needed an intravenous or an IV to give me water, sugar, and salt so I could survive. 8 months later, there was scar tissue where the doctors had fixed my cut. Scar tissue is excess tissue which blocks the intestine. My mom was especially worried, as she always looked out for me. So she called up the doctor, and soon I was rushed to the ER. The doctors identified there was scar tissue and said they wouldn't do surgery just yet because the scar tissue may go away in the next few days. It seemed my luck was increasing, as fortunately, the scar tissue did go away in the coming days. The hard part was over, but I still had a long way to go before getting over this. For the next few years of my life, until 5, I had major stomach problems. Almost anything I ate came back up, and my mom always needed a plan in case anything happened to me. I was sick, and I cried a lot. I had stomach aches, and I was always weak. I always needed a body to cling to. Although I was the one with the stomach problem, my mom was the real hero. I say this because I was just a baby. It's not like I was able to do anything to cope with this pain. But my mom, on the other hand, did an immense amount of work just to keep me healthy. So she was the one breaking through this adversity. My mom constantly listened, did, and wrote what the doctors advised her to do. She did research of her own, taking advice from websites, her friends, and family. Just imagine this. Your mom or dad thinking over 5 times what they should feed you, for fear that the slightest overdose of food or the wrong food could make you sick. This is what my mom went through every day. And when I was sick, it was even harder. Sometimes she would stay up entire nights with me on her lap. When I fell asleep, she was relieved. And no, not relieved for herself, but for me. For the rage and pain in my stomach faded away as I drifted into a peaceful and painless sleep. After the age of 5, I got over this problem, and it was such a relief for my mom. However, the doctor said that scar tissue could reappear at any point in my life, and my mom lives with this fear that something could happen to her little precious boy. I'm sure I'm not the only person whose parent or parents, for that matter, had to suffer through an adversity like this. That's why I want everyone, both adults and kids, to give a message in the chat or raise your hand if you have ever seen a loved one or yourself have to go through an adversity like my mom did, no matter how big or small. Just as I thought, everywhere, the people around you have gone through some sort of adversity. Now, don't answer this, but I'm tempted to see which people have successfully broken this bubble and really benefited and learned from it. Countless people have faced adversity in their lives, such as having a disability or an injury. Very few of these people, however, have managed to overcome this and become as successful as a normal person would. These few people who have made it big in the world are very well known. Icons such as Stephen Hawking, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Stevie Wonder all faced as much adversity in their lives than you and I would have in 9 lifetimes. But don't get me wrong, there are still people who break bubbles of adversity every day, like my mom. But these are just a few people who have really gone above and beyond. Stephen Hawking is one of the most loved and well-known physicists, despite having suffered with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or Lou Gehrig's disease, at age 21. ALS is a disease that occurs in the nervous system, which weakens the muscles. Basically, Hawking was paralyzed from head to toe. The doctors predicted he'd have 2 to 5 years to live. Hawking lived until he was 76 years old. He could only speak with the assistance of a computer, but that did not stop him from pursuing his dream of physics. One of Hawking's most well-known achievements was his discovery about black holes. Hawking proved that paralysis was a bubble he could break. Now, this next person did arguably something even greater than making a discovery about black holes. The 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, is considered one of the greatest presidents the U.S. has ever had. One of his many accomplishments is guiding our nation through World War II and the Great Depression with the New Deal. Despite having all this love, publicity, and fame, Roosevelt was a wheelchair user. When he began his political career, he was diagnosed with polio and became paralyzed waist down. Although Roosevelt's inability to walk wasn't public for years, as he didn't want people to doubt his legitimacy to be president, FDR also proved that paralysis was a bubble he could break. This next person may not have done anything as great as saving our nation from a war or making discoveries in science. This man has been a source of inspiration and entertainment to all. Stevie Wonder is one of the most loved artists alive today. He is a musician, singer, and songwriter. Mr. Wonder was considered a child prodigy, signing his first record label at age 11. I'm 12 right now, and the most I've achieved is winning a game of Among Us. Despite all this, Stevie was born blind. He was born 6 weeks early, so blood vessels at the back of his eyes had not come out and grown to their fullest, thus resulting in blindness. Stevie has had more than 30 US top 10 hit singles, including songs such as Superstition, Sir Duke, and I Just Called to Say I Love You. He is also only one of 4 people to win Album of the Year at the Grammys 3 times. Stevie proved that blindness was a bubble he could break. Now, while becoming someone like Stephen Hawking or FDR may be a 1 in a billion chance, what I'm hoping is that you'll take inspiration from these icons and strive to be just like them, despite your differences. I know, easier said than done, but this leads me to my next topic, how you can overcome your injuries or disabilities. The first thing you need to do to overcome an injury or disability you're facing is to accept the reality of the situation you're in. Know that, yes, you are different from others, not in a bad way, but in a way that acknowledges your weaknesses and strengths and uses it for the better. Secondly, don't dwell on your situation. This is actually the worst thing you can do. The sad truth is that you need to work harder than most people would to overcome your injury or disability. Push through your pain, and sooner or later, you'll get rewarded. Third, focus on the positives. Be optimistic about the situation you're in, despite your differences. And no matter how bad your situation, remember the good things about it. Next, challenge yourself and always try new things. Try to overcome more and more things as you go on, as this will make you not only more capable to break barriers, but also more occupied. The fifth thing you need to do is to be aware of others around you. Just because you're the one with the injury or disability doesn't mean you should be rude to others, because for all you know, they could be suffering with something even worse than you. Be polite, and even with snarky, rude, and obnoxious people, remember your values and take what they say with a grain of salt. Lastly, never ever give up. I know things can be hard at times, but you need to always remember that the world isn't such a horrible place. Sooner or later, sunlight will shine upon you, and you will be prosperous and successful. I hope now you realize that having a disability or an injury may make you weak and vulnerable physically, but that shouldn't stop you from pursuing your dream. In fact, once you get over an injury or disability, it will make you mentally stronger. So when you're hurt, I want you to break that bubble, break that barrier, break out of that single-minded thinking that you can't do what others can do, because you can. If you set your mind to it, you can do absolutely anything. I'd like to end off on a quote by Stephen Hawking himself. My advice to other disabled people would be, concentrate on things your disability doesn't prevent you from doing well, and don't regret the things it interferes with. Don't be disabled in spirit as well as physically. Thank you.